Hello and welcome back to Introduction to Programming. In today's lesson, we'll continue looking at control flow with Python. In the last lesson, we looked at conditional statements, where a block of code is only executed if a particular condition is true. In today's lesson, we'll look at another way of controlling the flow of our program using loops. Loops allow you to execute the same block of code repeatedly as long as a condition is true. There are different types of loops suitable for different situations. Let's have a look at them in action and understand when to use each one. A for loop in Python is used to iterate over a sequence. Sequences are special data types like strings, lists, tuples, dictionaries, and sets. Let's have a quick look at a for loop in action and understand how it works. Our for loop uses the range function to generate a sequence. In this case, it's a sequence of 5 elements, starting from 0 up to 4. In programming, we typically start counting from 0. The for loop iterates over each element of the sequence and references the value in the variable I. In this case, our code block simply prints the statement I to the terminal. While loops will repeat the same block of code as long as a condition is true. Let's try out the following snippet and see the result. As you can see, we've achieved the same result through a different method. To begin with, we initialize a variable I and set its value to 0. The while loop checks that the value of I is less than 5, and as long as this is true, the following code block will be executed. This means that if the value of I were to start at 5 or higher, this block of code would never be executed. This is a key difference between a for loop and a while loop. A for loop will typically run at least once, whereas a while loop will only run if the condition is true to begin with. The first line in the code block instructs the computer to print the value of I to the terminal. The second line increases the value of I with each iteration. It's important to do this because if you don't modify the value of I, you risk running the program indefinitely. Depending on what the program is doing, this may cause your computer to tip over. The line I plus equals 1 is shorthand for I equals I plus 1. Sometimes you want to interrupt the flow of a loop. There are 2 options to do this. The break statement will exit a loop completely and proceed to the next block of code. The continue statement will skip the current iteration and proceed to the next one. Let's see each of these in action to understand how they work. So in our for loop, we've created a sequence of 10 elements. We loop through each one, referencing the current value by I, and at the beginning, we check if the value of I is equal to 7. If it is, then we will break the loop, stop executing. If it is not, we will output the value to the terminal. So if this runs correctly, the loop should stop iterating after we display the value 6. We can see this is in fact the case. Let's look at how this would be different for a continue statement. With this loop, we want to output only the odd numbers found in this range. So using modular arithmetic, we say if I mod 2 equals 0, or if I divided by 2 leaves a remainder of 0, we should skip the current iteration. Otherwise, we should print the value of I to the terminal. So let's see what the output is like. Once we correct bugs in our code. And as expected, we have output 1, not 2, 3 but not 4, 5, 7, and 9. We also excluded 0 because that is not an odd number either. So that explains how we can exit or interrupt the flow of a loop using the break or the continue statement. Try the exercises in the next section to test your understanding.